Welcome to Real World, Real Talk with Dr. D.Z. Cofield. The show represents captivating conversations and insightful information to encourage and inspire you with all you need to become the best you can possibly be. And now, your host for Real World, Real Talk, Dr. D.Z. Cofield.
Hi, I'm Dr. D.Z. Cofield. Welcome to another edition of Real World, Real Talk. I am your host, and I want to welcome you to your member-supported public radio station, your number one source for jazz and more, KTSU. Now, listen, you want to call somebody who you know who is going to school, if you have children that are going to college, if you have grandchildren, nieces and nephews, call your friends, call your enemies. Man, if they have a child that's going to school and they want a plan, an opportunity to graduate from school debt-free. Yep, you heard it, debt-free. If they're looking for money to go to college, they want to be a part of this show on tonight. We've got an event coming up. The Horus Scholarship Fair will be held at Alief ISD Center for Talent Development, 14411 Westheimer Road on November the 10th. That's Friday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the Houston Independent School District, HISD, will host the Horus Scholarship Fair at Booker T. Washington High School, 4204 Yale Street, November the 11th. That's Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. You don't want to miss. Now, let me just give you a little history. Last year, we did this program. This same lady came, and we had 125 students. It was really the first time that we were able to get our feet wet in this process, and we got the process started late. 125 kids came, and they were awarded $2.1 million. Now, that's just a drop in the bucket to what these kids can actually receive. This year, we're not looking for 100 students. We're looking for thousands of students, and we want to give you an opportunity to be a part of that. I'm talking about some tremendous stories, some tremendous testimonies that came out of this. Schools that are both HBCUs and PWIs will be at this event, and they will be there. If your young people come dressed to impress, if they've taken their ACT, SAT scores, they can come and have provisional scholarships awarded on the spot. And even if they don't have the GPAs that many scholarships are looking for, this is something that you may not have heard of, character-based scholarships. If a young person can come and they have a compelling story and they want to get an education, I promise you, money will be made available. You don't want to miss this show. That's all I'm telling you. Call somebody wherever they are. If they're in the Houston metropolitan area, tell them to tune in, KTSU 90.9 on the FM dial. If they're outside of our listening audience, they can go to ktsuradio.com. They can, of course, download the app. All kinds of things. Tune in radio, simple radio. There are a number of apps, but tell them that they want to get on. Now, just a couple of housekeeping matters before we introduce our guest. If you'd like to follow me during the week, you can follow me on IG, Instagram at DZ Cofield. You can follow me on Facebook at DZ Cofield, and you can follow me on the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, X. You can follow me there at DZ Cofield. I am so happy to have back on Real World, Real Talk our guest. She has been with me before, Dr. Laura Dorsey. She is the CEO of LLD Scholars and Executive Director of Horus Scholars, which is a nationally known group. She facilitates both live and virtual programs and scholarship fairs regarding furthering post-secondary education. When it comes to education, Dr. Dorsey has one mission. That mission is to educate high school students about their college and trade career options with a unique focus on helping them and their families navigate how to finance those chosen options. She aims to share with them that scholarships and financial aid programs are available to make their post-secondary educational and career dreams a reality. Dr. Dorsey and her team sets out to change mindsets, especially among first-generation students who do not think they can afford college or afford a trade school or afford a career program, letting them know that there is something out there for everybody. She has helped thousands of students across this country and thousands of families each year understand that there are ways for them to afford college and trade and career educational opportunities and graduate, here it is, debt free. Dr. Dorsey's goal is to continue leading a worthy life, following her passion and calling to serve communities and youth with opportunities for future endeavors. Now, if you want to look up online while we're talking, you can go to horusscholars.org. That's HORUSSCHOLARS.org. horusscholars.org, or you can go to LLDscholars.org. Dr. Laura Dorsey, thank you for being with us tonight on Real World, Real Talk. How are you doing, ma'am?
Thank you, Dr. Cofield. I am fantastic. So very happy to be here again with you.
Oh my God. Listen, I'm so excited because last year we were kind of under the gun and we were scrambling to make things happen. And we were able to get 2 school districts to buy into this. I'm hoping next year, man, we can get 3 or 4. But this year we got 2 school districts who have just joined us and said, hey, we want to partner with you. Shout out to Dr. Anthony Mays and the Alief School District who came on board. Friday, November the 10th, we're going to be with the Alief School District. Dr. Mays has said he wants to bring all of his seniors. And man, I'm looking forward to that. And then we just got word that the Houston Independent School District, the largest school district in the state of Texas, has consented, and they're allowing us to come in and partner with them at one of the historically Black high schools here in Houston, Booker T. Washington High School. Super excited about this. But let's talk about your mission and what this is about. Last year, as I stated in the introduction, we had about 125 kids come through. I'm thinking about one young lady in particular who was in the top 10% of her class. Her mother had been fighting cancer and was really concerned. She was a single mom, whether or not a child would be able to get an education and how she was going to afford to send her to school. And she got a full scholarship. Her mother has since passed, lost that fight to cancer, but her daughter is in school. And I remember her walking out just with a smile on her face and the relief that her mother had to know that her child's education was paid for. Talk about Horus Scholars and what this program is all about, because let's start here. When I talk to people about this, they confuse a college fair with a scholarship fair. So let's talk about the difference between a college fair and a scholarship fair, because this is a scholarship fair, not a college fair.
Absolutely. So a college fair is actually exactly what it says. If you're interested in information about the colleges, you can actually go on the colleges fairs. Are usually there. They have dozens of different colleges. And if you just want to pick up information that you can read at home, that you can take home and be able to read about the college, you can do that. You can actually also do that going out on the internet. But if you're looking for funding to be able to make sure that that college education is a reality, then that's what we're doing. We're doing a scholarship fair. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the difference between a scholarship fair. At a scholarship fair, you have the opportunity, as Dr. Cofield said, to be able to bring yourself and be able to present yourself to a college or a scholarship. So, for example, our requirement is that a student bring a copy of their ACT or SAT scores, and if you haven't taken it, don't let that dissuade you. A copy of your transcripts. An unofficial copy is just fine. Okay. And we usually ask the student to write an essay about why they want to go to college. Now, as a prior English teacher, for me, the essay is important because if you can write an essay, then when you explain why you want to go to college, then you can articulate that. If you bring all that together in a portfolio, and I recommend that you have at least 5 of them, you can go in front of a college rep. So, for example, if we have Philander Smith College there, and you can tell Paul Persons at Philander Smith that, hey, listen, I'm interested in going to school. What is it that your college has to offer? And what Paul will do is be able to take a look, and I'm just using him as an example. What he'll be able to do is take a look at your transcripts and say, based on your transcripts and your test scores, you are eligible for our Dean Scholarship, which could be $20,000 a year times 4 years is $80,000. Or you could be eligible for our President's Scholarship. Or as Dr. Cofield said, you could be eligible for a full ride scholarship. Now, and those are the ones that we want to do. Now, here's the reason that it's important that you're going to be able to sell yourself. So for example, your GPA is a 3.5 and not a 4.0. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, there's no way I'm going to college because my GPA is only a 3.5 or 3.4. But what you can do is that when you're talking to that college or representative, you can say, hey, in my freshman year, I wasn't taking school as serious. I didn't do as well. And now I found, and by the time my sophomore and junior year, I found myself focused. So, Mr. and Mrs. College Rep, take a look at my transcripts right now. You will see currently I'm a 4.0 student or a 3.8 student. So even though the GPA, looking at it as a cumulative GPA, don't judge me by where I've been, judge me by where I am right now. And the colleges take all of that into consideration. You know, when we talked about the student that we talked about last year, students have sometimes underlying issues that are the reason that we didn't have the highest GPA. We know COVID put everybody, behind and being able to take it. You're able to tell your story. And able to tell your story, then you're able to let that college or university, which is looking, and here's the thing, the colleges don't want just the students with the top scores. They want students who are going to be good stewards on their campus. They want students who are going to be able to represent them once they graduate and go out into the workplace. You're able to tell that story. And that's what a scholarship fair is. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's why I like using that term, character-based scholarship, right? Because
Yes.
when those students come and they stand in front of those reps, it's just powerful to be able to tell your story. It's powerful for those reps to be able to put a name with the face. They get a lot of applications with students, 4.0 or 5.0 out of a 4.0 grade point average or the like, students who have taken a lot of AP classes. But that level of grit, that level of determination that is built, character that is developed when you've had to go through something. And I remember we talked last year about the young person whose GPA was in the 2 to 3 range. But again, normally that person would not have been able to get a scholarship, but people were able to talk to them and say, hey, man, this is what your story is. And they were able to sell themselves. And that's the real benefit to me, being able to sit there, sell yourself. We had a young man who was offered a full ride to the Citadel just simply by selling himself. And I remember the representative saying, that young man has had some challenges in life, but that's the kind of young man that we want at the Citadel. When you look back over the history of your work, what for you is the most rewarding aspect of this work?
I think the most rewarding aspect of this work is to be able to see my students be successful. I take a look at one of the students that we have when I first really got started in on this, and was from one of the Caribbean islands, and was just an average student. And her mother's like, I know she's got potential. I'm just going to turn her over to you and to be able to see what it is that you can do with her. So we encouraged her education, got a scholarship to be able to attend. Once she got that scholarship, she finished her bachelor's degree. I immediately made sure that she went on and to get, her master's degree. And from there, she was like, should I be getting a doctorate degree? And obviously, Dr. Cofield, you and I would agree, yep, while you're in it, just get in it. And
Yep.
so now I take a look at her, and she's like sort of one of my success stories. She has her own radio show, which I go on just like you, and she's got a large international audience. She has her own consulting business. She's a Maxwell, consultant. And all of that came from just that first time being able to tell yourself and being able to follow the leads of people's mentor. My going thing is right now, as Dr. Cofield, you said, is like my passion, is that this is my legacy. When I'm gone, I want to be able to have someone tell my children, it's like, okay, maybe she didn't leave a great deal of money, but what she left is a trail of people whose lives that she's changed. When I retired from the university, Dr. Cofield, they sent me a letter and they said, in the time you've been teaching here, you've touched the lives of 5,000 students, and XYZ number of classes that I've taught over the 20 years. Dr. Cofield, that's 5,000 students whose lives that I touch. And that's just at one university. When it's my time, I can answer when God says job well done, I can say I did the best I can. That's my legacy. That's what I'm leaving here.
That's awesome. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Real World, Real Talk. I'm your host, Dr. DZ Cofield, and you're listening to your member-supported public radio station, your number one source for jazz and more, your community station, KTSU 90.9 on the FM dial and KTSUradio.com. When we talk about a scholarship fair, and for those of you who may be just tuning in, that's what we're talking about. We're literally talking about standing in front of school representatives of both HBCUs and PWIs, being able to present yourself, being able to sell yourself, and walk out the door with money in hand. They're saying to you, hey, here's our commitment. If you do your part, this is what we're willing to do. But let me tell you what really impressed me last week. And I'm thinking about schools like Livingstone College, and some of the smaller HBCUs. What really impressed me was, a lot of times when we think about colleges, especially those who went to large state universities, and you go into those first classes, those introductory classes, and there's 200, 300 students in one class, to be in a small, loving, nurturing environment where professors know you. If you miss class, they're going to call you. They're going to check on you. They're going to talk to your mama. They're going to talk to whomever they need to talk to. But they're going to make sure you stay on track, teaching those kids how to be successful in the world. That, for me, was the most impressive thing about the college scholarship fair, I should say, last year, because it just let us know that there's room at the table. And there are a variety of tables that people can sit at. And if they don't fit into a large environment, they can get into a small, more nurturing, more loving environment. Let's talk about some of the different schools that you have coming who are all committed to helping these young people be the best that they can possibly be.
And so I think we had a list, and I think I shared the list with you, and I just didn't necessarily have it ready for here. But we had a list of schools that were there, like you said, that were looking at making sure that we provided the students with scholarships and scholarship information. We had an Alabama A&M, we had a Livingstone, we had Philander Smith. One of the biggest things that I always want to tell people about is that there are actually 102 HBCUs. Most people can name like 5 or 10 of them at the top of their head. But like you said, there's some of the smaller schools that were there. But one of the things that we're also doing, Dr. Cofield, this year too, is that I'm encouraging some of our like trade partners, our community college partners there too, because in my travels around the country, what I've realized that there are a lot of young people that do not see the value of a 4-year education. Not just young people, there are a lot of people that don't see the value of a 4-year education, especially with the skyrocketing costs of student loan debt. And there are multiple careers that don't require a 4-year degree. And so one of the things that we want to make sure that we do is that we provide our students with all of the options. Yes, this is a scholarship fair, but if you're looking for other options, whatever, we want to make sure that you have those too. We want the Horus Scholars wants to take a look at this from a holistic point of view.
Yeah. That's what I love because, when we think about education, and I've said this for years, especially coming out of my background in juvenile justice, college is not for everybody. 4-year schools are not for everybody. 2-year schools are not for everybody. And we know society has changed, but I think everybody needs a viable and meaningful post-secondary experience. And if you can give somebody a viable post-secondary educational experience, and on top of that, they can graduate debt-free or close to it, man, that's a monumental blessing. My son and I were talking about that, and we were talking about, who has graduated in a better position. The medical doctor who has debt that they're going to be paying off for the next 100 years or so, or the person who graduates with a trade, who graduates debt free. And what does their real money look like? If that doctor's making $150,000 a year, and this person with an electrical background or welding or plumbing graduates and they're making $95,000 or $100,000 a year and they don't have any debt, who is actually making more money at that point? And we're not talking about just career choice or fulfillment. We're just talking about, in a practical sense, the dollars and cents, right? Do we have people who are responding to that, who are saying, yeah, we want to come from that post-secondary trade family that's coming and saying, yeah, we see this as a viable option for kids? And I know we had some military representatives there last year as well.
Yes. And so we have been, like I said, we've been traveling all over the country with this. We had such a good program. We just recently did the scholarship Fair Expo in Baltimore. And so in Baltimore, we had one of the trade unions, I think it was like a carpenters union. And so they brought a bunch of their people. What they have is an apprenticeship program. And so what they were explaining to the students is that they have a paid apprenticeship program where they come in, you could be an apprentice. And then after the 6 months of the apprenticeship, then they put you out on the site and be able to, find you a job. Now you don't owe anybody anything, and you're graduating debt free. So we had a lot of students that were interested in that. We also had an organization that was there that was taking a look at, from technology standpoint, cybersecurity and technology and security is definitely a new end thing. And you think about it, in a 4-year degree, by the time you're a freshman, and what you learn as far as technology is concerned, by the time you're a senior, that information is outdated. They change phones every year. They change technology. And so companies are looking for certifications. And so we have several different organizations that offer certifications to high school students. Come in, take the certification. We'll pay for you to take the certification, and then make sure that we place you into a job to the particular jobs. And Dr. Cofield, what we found is that sometimes when the parents brought the students, they were like, "Oh, this is an option." Oh, yeah. So we had parents that were looking at alternative options too, that were able to sign up. So, and of course, we are a firm believer of the military, and the Citadel being there, because that is definitely an option. What people don't realize, that I think the military doesn't do a good job of selling this, is that the military has doctors and dentists and lawyers. Everybody's not out fighting, in the war. There are some people that are doing stuff, behind the desk in order to be successful. And our students should know all of those options, Dr. Cofield, you travel probably as much as I do. We were talking about our airline miles. Do you know that pilot that's driving the plane that you put your life in could actually be driving that plane and not have a 4-year degree? You don't need a 4-year degree to be a pilot. The person that's trying to get him down, the air traffic controller, does not need a 4-year degree to be an air traffic controller. Yet you and I, with all our education, we put our lives in these people's hands that don't have a degree at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was looking at a study, and they were saying that if we did not have plumbers in our society, we couldn't produce enough doctors to treat all the people who would be sick. And if you've had to call a plumber and they gave you their hourly rate, you might have gotten a little sick. But the truth of the matter is, we could not make it without plumbers and electricians and the like. For those of you who are just tuning in, we're You're listening to Real World, Real Talk. I'm your host, Dr. DZ Cofield, and we're talking about the upcoming scholarship fairs. These are fairs where we ask students to come dressed to impress, come with, if you can, bring an essay why you want to come to college. Bring copies of your transcript, even if it's an unofficial copy of your transcript, and bring that SAT or ACT score if you have taken that, and come ready to talk to people and sell yourself. The Horus Scholarship Fair will be held at Alief ISD Center for Talent Development, 14411 Westheimer Road, on November the 10th. That's Friday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the Houston Independent School District, HISD, will host the Horus Scholarship Fair at Booker T. Washington High School, 4204 Yale Street, November the 11th. That's Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And let me say this, if there's a line there, the representatives of these colleges and universities will stay as long as they need to, because they are all committed to helping young people not just get an education, but as much as possible to graduate debt-free. Now, this is not FAFSA. This is not, you getting grants, Pell Grants, or anything else. This is simply from the school. And we saw young people walk away with full rides on the table, full scholarships on the table. And these representatives are putting money together, the presidential award, the dean's award, depending on your GPA. And if all you have is a story to tell, you've struggled in school, you've had a hard time, but you've turned that thing around and you are serious about getting your education, man, the more compelling the story, the more the men and women who are coming representing these schools say, we want you to be part of our student body. Dr. Dorsey, let's talk a little bit about Alief ISD and HISD consenting to be part of this. I know you travel all over the country, and there are cities much smaller than Houston that you go to for 3 and 4 days, Birmingham, Alabama, New Orleans. Why is it so important for Houston to get on board as the 4th largest city in this country when we talk about these scholarship opportunities?
One of the biggest things, Dr. Cofield, is that we need to recognize that all of our students need the options and opportunities. And politics aside, one of the things is that Houston, I think you were telling me, was is the 5th largest city, one of the 5th largest city in the nation, and I may have the numbers wrong, being able to do that. Well, if you're the 5th largest city, I'm sure that there's a large minority population. And the thing about it is that if we don't give our children resources, if we don't give our children the options to know that they have the choices that they need to make, then how are we affecting the next generation? And how are we affecting the next generation of politicians that you have, of doctors and nurses and plumbers? How do we make sure that our students are making sure that they're representing us in the community, in the halls of of Congress and of the Senate? Who knows? The student that we're approaching today could be the next, president, that we have. And if not, it could be the next astronaut. Technology is going to a whole different place, with AI. One of the things that I've heard the other day is that the percentage of minority children, especially women, that are in technology is in the single digits. We want to be able to change that aspect. And so if we can find ourselves in a community, for me, that looks like me, where there's students, young men and young women, and I can just tell them, all I'm doing is telling them my story. That's all we're doing. Is that I do all of this, Dr. Cofield, because I'm sharing my story. I didn't get here and you didn't get here without somebody's help. And it's incumbent upon us to be able to reach back and be able to help our students. And I'm just so pleased that Houston, it took me a couple of years to be able to get here, and and now, Dr. Cofield, I got 2 school districts in Houston. And like you said, we had 100 students last year. Well, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, and I'm hoping she's smiling at us. Last year, she said, "How come this room is not full?" Well, Dr. Cofield, your team there have done it. the rooms are going to be full this year. And like you said, I travel all over the country. I'm not in Houston, but the fact that I've got partners there that are helping me make this possible is just amazing. And I'm so thrilled.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing. You're right. Because the Congresswoman, she's like, hey, we're going to fill this room up. Here's the challenge we're having now. The Congresswoman is running for mayor. So
Yes.
I've got to see if we can get her on board and get her to come through and make a visit. But no, it's absolutely essential, because those of us who have more days behind us than in front of us know how fast time goes by. And it gives us an opportunity to, as you stated, pay forward to this next generation what was given to us. And, when you talk about graduating debt free, I want you to talk about that a little bit. I know you have children, you have people that you have mentored over the years. Talk a little bit about the importance of them being able to graduate debt free. Like what does that mean? Because, so many people think about debt and student loans, and, the President Biden put out this promise that, they were going to forgive student loans, and people thought that they were going to be forgiven in total. And then when they said 10,000, I heard people literally saying, man, 10,000, that's it, because they owe hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Talk about the blessing and the opportunity to graduate from school debt free.
Dr. Cofield, one of the things that you and I understand is that we understand numbers. Okay. And one of the things that we do understand numbers is that your debt affects your credit score, and your credit score affects everything else. And so, like you said, we talk about, using our students, our children as example. So my daughter decided to take the military route. Okay. And she said, stop talking about your daughter. No one wants to hear about your daughter. But she decided to take the military route with the understanding that she was going to use the military to help pay for her education. So my daughter has an associate's degree, 2 bachelor's degrees, a master's degree, no student loan debt whatsoever, retired from the military after 23 years, and she has a very good job making a 6-figure salary. When she got ready to buy a house, she didn't have to worry about what her credit score looks like, because guess what? She doesn't have student loan debt. Is the biggest deterrent of most people's credit scores. And the people that support a lot of us here in DC are real estate agents, because they realize that they can't get people to apply for houses because their student loan debt is the biggest detriment on their credit score. We don't always understand that and equate the difference between the two. So we can help people on this end, and then that affects their credit going forward. And now they're more viable to the community. Now they can start businesses, and they can apply for loans, and then they can have houses where they can call plumbers and electricians and everything, and if they can do it, then that's another generation. We talk a lot about first generation, families or whatever. But Dr. Cofield, if we do this generation, we're affecting the next generation and next year. We're not even going to be here to know the generations of going forward that we're affecting.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Real World, Real Talk. I'm your host, Dr. DZ Cofield. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a moment. We're going to talk about some of the schools that have participated in the scholarship fair in the past, and we're going to talk about where you can go on November the 10th and the 11th to secure your educational future and to try to do it in a fashion that will result in you graduating from school debt-free. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to your member-supported public radio station, KTSU 90.9 on the FM dial and ktsusradio.com.
I love the curriculum. It's very clear, very straightforward and concise. And, it's structured in such a way in that, we're taking the lessons, we're taking the scripture, and you get the life application. So there's action items to go along with each lesson that we do. Case in point, there is a service project that we do. Now, I wasn't able, just based on schedules, to do the service project with my whole group, but it's a lot of flexibility there. So I was able to volunteer with the Good Hope Food Pantry, which was awesome. And that was a blessing because I was able to meet, again, other members of the church. By the way, again, I'm not a member at this point. I'm just trying to plug in and understand what Good Hope is all about. I ran into an old college classmate, met some new folks. One of the members of my group happened to be there on that Saturday. I met him and his wife, so we got to talk in more depth. So that was an awesome experience. And so coming through everything just gave me confirmation. I mean, now, full disclosure, to be honest, maybe I knew from jump that, Good Hope was the place for me. But Rooted and Grounded gave me the confirmation. So shortly thereafter, as we were rounding out our 10th week, I decided to join Good Hope, and I'm so excited about the opportunity to be here and to plug in and to pour into others, as well as the rest of Good Hope to pour into me.
Welcome back to Real World, Real Talk. I'm your host, Dr. DZ Cofield. You're listening to your member-supported public radio station, your number one source for jazz and more, your community station, KTSU 90.9 on the FM dial and KTSUradio.com. Now, let me take this opportunity to let you know that KTSU is a public radio station, which means what? There is no public radio without the public. Membership is 24/7, 365 days a year. If you got a chance to join and become a member or extend your membership, renew your membership during our fall membership campaign, wonderful. God bless you. But if you still want to join, it's not too late. You can go to go to our app and you can hit the Member Now button and join, or you can text the word member to 713-313-4354. That's 713-313-4354. Text the word member, MEMBER, and you'll get links. Follow those prompts and links, and you can become a member today of the choice. I'm so happy to have with me today Dr. Laura Dorsey of the Horus Scholars program. Horus is spelled HORUS, and that is because of the corporation that is sponsoring this scholars program, Horus Construction. Dr. Dorsey, tell our listening audience about Horus Construction and why they got involved in this work.
Horus Construction is a minority-owned construction company based out of Tampa, Florida. Jonathan Graham is the owner, CEO of Horus Construction, which is a family-owned business. His niece, Lena Graham Morris, is and I were good friends. We've been working together for years. Lena realized the value of education. She realized the value of what I've been doing. She traveled throughout the state of Florida with me, and she went to Jonathan and said, "You should see what Dr. Dorsey is doing. This is amazing. We need to be part of this." And Jonathan said, "Okay, if this is what you want to do." So Lena created Horus Academy, which is an offshoot of Horus Construction. And then with that, we created Horus Scholars. The first year that Jonathan saw that what we were doing, he was very excited about it and said, "Yes, we need to do this more. We need to do it in more places." And as Horus was expanding, they thought that we should be expanding also. And so now, as we travel across the country, Lena travels across the country with me. Occasionally, Jonathan and the board of directors, they're all so very, very excited about what we're doing for the next generation, not only for their business, but what we're doing for the next generation of students across the country. So much thanks to Jonathan Graham and Lena Graham Morris or whatever, who saw my vision and who let me help me put this together.
Yes, we're talking about colleges, trades, and this scholarship expo, this scholarship fair. For somebody that's just tuning in, there's a distinct difference between a college fair and a scholarship fair. At a college fair, colleges are trying to sell themselves to you, and you go to get information and they load you up with all kinds of brochures and stuff about their school, and they want you to come to their school and learn more about their school. At a scholarship fair, you get to sell yourself to the schools. And when you come dressed to success, and let's talk about some of the things that you need to bring, multiple copies of your SAT or ACT score, transcripts, unofficial transcripts or official transcripts, letters of recommendation, great thing to bring, personal essay statement about why you want to go to college, dress to impress, whatever the best is you have. If the best you have is jeans, man, wear your jeans, right? Just make sure they're clean and they look good, and wear your shirt, and maybe you borrow a jacket from an uncle or somebody. But come dressed to impress, and you can literally receive what I'm calling a character-based scholarship. So even if you're not a student that's a 4.0 GPA and you don't have a bunch of AP classes, but you have a story to tell. You may have really struggled that first year, second year in high school, but you turned it around in that third and fourth year. You have a clear path identified in terms of, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. This is where I want my life to be in 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Man, come tell your story. I'm telling you, there are schools that will be present. Let's talk about some of the schools, because I know last year there were 30 plus colleges and universities. There were probably 10 career-ready partners that were there. But let's talk about some of the schools that were present, because I thought, for me, what was amazing was you had HBCUs there and you had PWIs there. For example, I'm sitting there going, man, the University of Dayton is here? Like, what's the University of Dayton doing here, right? Or the Citadel. But we see some of the smaller HBCUs. And as you said, most people, when you think about HBCUs, maybe they can name 5. If you put a gun to their head, maybe 10 or 15. But there are over 100 HBCUs in this country, and many of them are just perfect for many of our students, especially people who would be the first generation in their family to go to college. Dr. Dorsey, we're going to talk about the schools in a minute, but I want you to talk a little bit about the kind of loving environment that many of our students may need, who may feel intimidated going to a large school or going to a predominantly white institution, but would fit in perfect at a school like Livingstone or Alabama State or FAMU or somewhere like that.
Well, one of the things that I love about a lot of the schools that are on our network, like you said, they're that small environment, is that Dr. Cofield, we know a lot of times, sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. And
Yep.
When you can walk on that campus, they were saying that in order to be successful, a student needs 3 things. They need to be able to know somebody in their finance office that they can know by name. They need to have a teacher that they can know by name. And then they need to have a classmate, that they can relate to. Statistically speaking, if a student has those 3 things, they're more likely to be able to start school and be able to finish school. Well, guess what? If you're in a classroom that's got 1,000 people in a lecture hall, as opposed to a classroom that's got a student a school that's got a 15-to-1 student to teacher ratio, then that's amazing. For instance, if you were having a problem in English class, you could go to the English teacher, that English teacher who knows you, and say, I'm struggling, and then, hey, I need extra work, I need extra help. And they will be willing to help you. But it's in a larger universities, when that lecture hall is 1,000 students, Dr. Cofield, you and I know sometimes the professor's not even teaching. Sometimes the teacher assistant is teaching. You
Right.
could walk by that professor all day long and they wouldn't even know you. But if you were on a campus and you could say, hey, Joe, hey, how's your mother doing? Because your mother came to visit campus. Dr.
Right.
Cofield, Grand Canyon University, PWI, Grand Canyon University has a process where they will actually fly the student who's accepted at Grand Canyon. They will fly a student and their parent out to the campus to be able to visit the campus, to be able to see what campus life is like. So the parent will actually know exactly, this is what my student is looking at. This is what they're doing. So we're going out there to be able to visit them. I just did the same thing at Life University in Atlanta, a wonderful college, over 100, it's on 110 acres. Everybody knows everybody by name. The president came out, he had on jeans and a jacket, and was just interacting with students and the parents. If you come from a small place, if you come from a family that hasn't ever been to college before, that's the atmosphere that you're used to. That's what you want to be. And that's what your parents are going to be more comfortable with sending to you than in a large institution too.
Yeah. I think that is so interesting, because I know, for example, I went to Swarthmore College, and, I went there because my father, was born and raised in Alabama, and he wanted me to go to a PWI, and basically, kind of said, hey, you're going to be Black all your life. So, you don't need to go to school and get the Black experience. And, I will tell you this, there were a lot of people who came, Black and white, but we were disproportionately affected by some of the tactics in those first year classes, because there were a lot of people who were really, really smart in high school who came there and wanted to be medical doctors and ended up flunking out in biology or flunking out in chemistry or organic chemistry, because those first year classes, quite honestly, they were not designed to help students succeed. They were designed to weed out people. And so they literally went after people. And I can't tell you how many brothers and sisters who started off on that path who ended up, if they stayed at the school, ended up majoring in psychology just to get a degree from the school. One brother in particular that I played sports with, he came to the school to be an engineer. And the engineering program, again, like many of those hard sciences, it was designed to weed people out. And he ended up transferring. He went to a local university, and I just heard this year, I was up in the Philadelphia area, and he's one of the top executives at Philadelphia Electric now. He's running entire divisions in Philadelphia Electric. His passion for engineering would have been squashed if he had stayed at that school.
Yes.
And we hear those stories over and over again about people who go to schools and they think if they go to the best schools that they'll get the best education, when in actuality, it's about you finding the best school for you, not about the best school in terms of how it's ranked in USA News and that kind of deal. What's the best school for you? And there's no question, being in a place where you are loved, where you are appreciated, where you are wanted, where you are being nurtured, people learn best in those environments and learn the least when you're in an academically hostile environment where people are trying to trip you up and trying to cause you to fail to see if you can make it through the gauntlet. Let's talk about some of the schools that are there at the scholarship fair. Alabama A&M, Alabama State, FAMU, Go Rattlers, Houston Community College, Livingstone College, Miles College, Prairie View A&M is scheduled to be there. Texas A&M University, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV, West Point, the Citadel. You have such a wide range of colleges and universities for students to choose from. Why is that important to the integrity of the Horus Scholars program?
Dr. Cofield, it's not even so much that it's important to the integrity of the Horus Scholars program, but it is integrity of making sure that our students have choices. One of the things is that students don't necessarily recognize, and like you said, especially first generation, just because you applied to that college does not mean that you're going to be accepted. I was telling someone the other day, I was looking at the stats for Spelman, because a lot of people, like you said, they want the top named schools. Okay, so Spelman for 2022, the year before, 13,000 students applied for Spelman. they accepted 500. A 4%
Wow.
acceptance rate. You and I both know that the acceptance rate, especially at the larger name schools, are not there. So a lot of students will set their mind on, I want to go to this particular school and that one. A, they can't afford it, and B, they don't get accepted. And if their hopes are crushed, but if we have them come to our event where you get multiple scholarships, that you can sit down and you've got your choice. And if you didn't get accepted at your number one, then you got plan B, C, and D. That's what we're offering. We're offering all of those different options that you wouldn't necessarily have.
Yeah. So again, the Horus Scholarship Fair will be held at Alief ISD Center for Talent Development, 14411 Westheimer Road on November the 10th. That's Friday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the Houston Independent School District, HISD, will host the Horus Scholarship Fair at Booker T. Washington High School, 4204 Yale Street, November the 11th. That's Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Now, remember what I told you. You want to come ready to impress. You want to be dressed to impress, wear your best because you're selling yourself. You want to come with your ACT or SAT scores, multiple copies. If you have it, if you have a resume, that's great. Bring an unofficial transcript. And again, bring 4 or 5 copies. So if you need to leave something with somebody, you can leave it with them, especially if it's a school specifically that you're interested in attending. Bring letters of recommendation and a personal essay statement why I want to attend college. It doesn't have to be specifically to one school. Just write a general letter. Why I want to have this viable post-secondary educational experience. And we're talking about you having the opportunity to go to school debt-free. For some of you who are listening, you have grandchildren, you have children. For some of you who are listening, maybe you're in that gap year where you've taken time off and you've been trying to figure out how you're going to make ends meet in order to go to school. Listen, don't get caught up in unnecessary debt that keeps you from going to school. I know young people who have said, well, I want to get an apartment on my own, or I want to get a telephone, or I want to get a car. And all of those things are debt. Listen, adulting will be there when you get through with your education. You'll have plenty of time to get into debt. I promise you, you'll have plenty of time to buy a car, to buy a house, to get an apartment. Take advantage of the opportunity that you have now to come to this scholarship fair. That's November the 10th and November the 11th. Dr. Dorsey, I want you to comment on this because, last year we took this on at our church as a last minute venture, and you all were willing to come back to our church, but I was determined we wanted to expose as many children as possible to this blessing, to this benefit. And I want to shout out Dr. Mays for Alief stepping up early on. He caught the vision and said, man, we are in. Now give us the whole day. I'm going to bring all of our students there. And then I want to thank Mr. Miles and the team at HISD. There's been so many things going on with the Houston Independent School District and the intervention by the Texas Education Agency. And we had to fight through and figure out a way to try to get to the person who would finally say yes, but they finally did say yes. And when you have over 200,000 students in the Houston Independent School District, and you have several thousand who are seniors in high school, this potentially can be a tremendously powerful event to change not just the lives of these young people, but to change the trajectory of their entire family. For many of them, this is going to be life-changing. How important is it for the school districts to be able to come in and partner with you in this work?
At the end of the day, like I said, neither I nor anyone from Horus Scholars actually lives in the Houston area. And if we want to make sure that we reach our students, how do we reach them? We're going to go where they are, which is in the school district. And it's so important for me to have the support for us to have the support of the school district, because that's where the students are. That's where we're going to get to them and give out the information. So for the students, for the school district to realize that this is what we're doing, and they deal with colleges and universities all over. So for them to see the benefit of partnering with you, Dr. Cofield, with the church, with Christopher Knight, with all the community. I am just so blessed that you all allow me into your community, allow me to bring my dream and my vision into your community and be able to see the benefit of what it is that we do.
Yeah. Over $4 million in scholarships awarded over the last 2 years. We had 2.1 million that was committed last year to only 125 students. I mean, man, those students were walking through and they literally were walking out with scholarship commitments from multiple schools. We love to spread that out. The Horus Scholarship Fair will be held at Alief ISD Center for Talent Development, 14411 Westheimer Road, on November the 10th. That's Friday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the Houston Independent School District, HISD, will host the Horus Scholarship Fair at Booker T. Washington High School, 4204 Yale Street, November the 11th. That's Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And man, we're going to have to reach out to some other school districts and see if we can get some other people, because I know you all are used to doing 3 and 4 day events. You have no problem doing that. And I would love to get Sci-Fair. I would love to get Spring Independent School District. Maybe we'll get up to Conroe. Maybe we'll get down to Lamar Consolidated. We're going to try to figure it out. If there's somebody who's listening that wants to have the Horus Scholars come into your community to offer these scholarships, these colleges and universities would love to partner with you in the education of your young people. Dr. Dorsey, as we get ready to close today, what are some final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience?
I would like to share with the audience that education, like you said, as those of us that are older who have more days behind us than we have in front of us, one of the things that I learned is that education is the one thing that nobody can take from you. And in this crazy world that we live in, with everything that's going on, what you put between your ears, nobody can repossess that. Nobody can foreclose on that. Nobody can do that. And the education that you're going to get is the firm foundation that you're going to build your life on. Horus Construction is a construction company, and that's one of our goals. We build futures, we build lives, and you can't build anything without a firm foundation. These events that we're having right here help with that firm foundation, help pour the concrete that you're going to build upon. And I am just so grateful and so blessed that we have the local partners like you, Dr. Cofield, and Christopher, and the school districts or whatever that are helping with building and laying that foundation. And we hope that you all just come and take advantage of it. I'm looking forward to having you here. I've told the whole Horus team about you all, so everybody is flying in. So before you just had me, it's going to be a whole team, a whole production, Dr. Cofield. Everybody is looking forward to this.
Well, listen, I'm looking forward to it as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Dorsey, and we'll see you when you get in town, and we'll start doing some media hits, and we'll make sure we'll spread the word. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
The late Vernon John said, if you see a good fight, get in it. I always add, if you don't see a good fight, start one. Dr. Dorsey said it well, and let me reiterate what she just said. Next to my relationship with Jesus Christ, nothing has changed my life like my education, and it's something that nobody can take away from me. And there are those who may be listening who are saying, you know what, man, I don't know if I want to go to school. I don't know if I want this debt. Number one, a scholarship fair will put money in your hands. Number two, if you think an education is expensive, let me tell you something. Ignorance is far more costly. You want to do everything you can to have a viable post-secondary educational experience, whether it's a community college, a trade school, a four-year school, whatever it is, a certification, and the Scholars Fair will make that more accessible to you. We know scholarships are available. The problem is many people can't access them. So we want to help you to make that connection. Go to horusscholars.org. That's HORUSSCHOLARS. horusscholars.org for more information. Keep your eyes out online. We're going to be shipping this out all over the internet. And we want to see you November the 10th, Alief Independent School District, November the 11th, HISD. But listen, if you're a student, just come on and get this blessing that's waiting for you. This is Dr. DZ Cofield signing off. We'll catch you next time. All right? God bless is our prayer.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real World, Real Talk. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes every week. Follow us via social media using the @RWRTDZ username on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To submit any comments, questions, sponsor opportunities, or future show suggestions, visit us online at rwrtdz.com or via email at info@rwrtdz.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope you've been inspired to be the change you want to see in the world today. Until next time, be real, keep it real, and stay real.